So I am a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for so many years that I've lost count. It's kind of like once you reach a certain age, you're like, ooh, I don't know, I got to subtract. So almost 20 years now as a registered nurse, and I've worked in a variety of specialties. I started out in ICU. I did home health and hospice and some specialty care, and the majority of my time was spent in primary care. And some of the issues that patients have, navigating the healthcare system, I got to see that um, front and center in primary care. And that was some of the work that we were trying to do when I was in primary care, was to help make that frustrating process a little less frustrating. So now I do consult triage, but I'm also a health advocate, helping patients navigate that process, the healthcare process individually. So
That's
that's
awesome.
me.
Yeah. Thanks, Nicole. So, Emily, can you take us back to the beginning of your health journey? It doesn't
Yeah,
have to be an exact spot, but where do you think is a good place to start?
yeah. So I've been struggling with health issues, going on 11-ish years, 12-ish years now. Wow. Since I was about, I can't figure out exactly, but it's 10 to 12 years old is when I started to have my health issues. And yeah, one day I was a super active kid. I was playing soccer. I was the goalie because I was the only one willing to have the ball hit my face. And I all of a sudden came home from a game and slept 20 hours straight. And my mom was like, that's not normal for her. And immediately noticed. I got written off very quickly because I was so young as just a depression case. So they said I had depression. They put me on antidepressants for a while until I was able to finally get into high school and communicate and realize that, oh, what I'm feeling isn't depression. There's something else going on in my life, and I was having all these health issues, and that's what's making me frustrated. It's not that I'm, depressed. And so that's when we kind of started looking at doctors and going to doctors to see what we could do. So we asked them to run a Lyme test. The first doctor wouldn't. We went then, and I finally got a positive Lyme test, so we knew that I had that. And I was at a functional med doctor where they treated me. Well, they tried to treat me with oral antibiotics. My body couldn't take it, and so then it was about building, building, building back up. We need to build your health up until really I got to a point where I was somewhat stabilized in high school, going into college. And then college hit, and I started progressively getting worse and worse. Symptoms, a rash that would only flare when I would eat now was constantly on my body, spreading throughout my face. The foods that I could eat were slowly getting more and more restrictive. I was having so many allergic reactions to things, and we were going to doctor to doctor. They didn't know what to do with me, really. And finally, senior year of college, I won this big award. I was the most outstanding student at Delaware, and I couldn't use my hands. My hands started to, have tremors so badly that I couldn't hold a pencil. And so I kind of went through graduation, uh, you know, uh, not really there. My mom like pretty much carried me through that. And
That's
then
wild.
we went to a specialist. We went to like 3 different specialists for Lyme. Found one that we were comfortable with, and thank goodness they were able to get me in within like a few months of talking to them. So now where I'm at is I'm getting treatment for neural Lyme. So the Lyme bacteria got into my brain. We did a brain spec scan to show that. So I have a PICC line, a beautiful little PICC line in my arm, and I still get IV antibiotics. And then we're going to move to oral antibiotics, and then do like a mixture of natural methods and maintenance meds. Hopefully, in the coming months, that could happen for me. So
you have a PICC line at all times.
I have a PICC line at all times. Yeah, and I had a central. It's not. It's a was kind of like a Mediport. They called it a hone cath. Now I'm just
Med-
throwing words out. That see,
Nichole's, yeah, like I got you.
Huber,
You might have to
like a
explain that
Huber,
to me.
yeah,
What were you
yeah.
saying, Nicole?
So central lines can become infected really easily. So sometimes they'll put in a permanent port. And
Um,
so it's easier to administer things that might be more toxic to your peripheral veins through that port. So they'll use it for, especially for patients that have to have multiple infusions of something that might be toxic to or irritating to the vein.
mm,
Um, and then a PICC line goes peripherally. It's a central line essentially, but it has a less
probably not pretty.
risk
oh,
for
I'm,
infection because you're going peripherally instead of right directly into one of the main
mm,
veins. So, how long have you had your PICC line?
So I've only had my PICC line for probably like 2 months, 3 months, something like that. I had that home cath, and it did get infected. Totally my fault. People were warning me to like not do the things that I love to do. So like I love to garden, but that's soil, and you really
Yeah.
shouldn't be playing around in soil. But I didn't understand like the depth of what I was doing, and so I was like, the doctors tell me I can't do anything. I'm gonna do it anyway. And it did get infected. So I'll take that on the chest, and I'll move on. But yeah, so it did get infected. The reason why we chose to do such a extreme method of treatment was because of the neural Lyme, and doing an infusion allows the antibiotics to surpass the gut. So I had leaky gut syndrome, meaning I wasn't
mm,
absorbing anything in my gut at all. So I had been taking vitamin D supplements for like years, and my vitamin D would not move, would not budge. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really glad that we did the IV treatment despite the high barrier to entry. There's so many few providers that do it. There's really high cost associated with it, but I started to see improvement almost immediately within the first few treatments. Um, the rash on my body, like I said, but really the biggest thing was the neurological things that we were going after. So the tremors in my hands, I was, sometimes my head would just shake. Um, it wasn't pleasant. And my vision and my right eye, all this stuff was happening to me. And so, yeah, right now I'm in school, I'm managing my health. And I have my own startup for women with chronic illness to try and help because, I'm sure all of you know, the biggest thing is when you experience and feel these problems and issues, for me at least, the biggest thing is I just want to help. I want to help the next person get through it just a little bit easier so they didn't have to experience, what I experienced.
mm.
Yeah.
I really appreciate how you clarified that it wasn't pleasant. Just so you know, I don't think anyone was assuming that it was. Like,
It
all that sounds terrible. In the middle of all that, it wasn't pleasant.
wasn't
That was
pleasant.
good clarity. Yeah. Thanks for.
Sometimes
While you're
I
also trying
speak
to
about,
just manage your life.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes, I speak about things and it's so difficult for people who aren't in it to understand just the difficulty, so I always clarify things,
Yeah. I mean,
especially when I say it with a smile on my face. They're kind of like, you weirdo. I'm like, I've been talking about this for years now. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is hard to effectively communicate something that has happened and is happening to you in that moment.
mm-hmm,
And
1000%.
Yeah, it's a lot of complex emotions.
1000%. I have a therapist, so I'm very open and honest about that. And I think, I call her my life coach. I think everybody should have a life coach. Life's hard, chronic illness or not. So I do have a therapist. She specializes, she's a Lyme literate therapist, so she knows about Lyme. She herself went through Lyme treatment, and that's why she opened her practice.
Yep.
So, there, for the grace of God, I found her, and I see her every week.
Man. And you said
That's
the
awesome.
Lyme got into your brain.
Yes, Lyme bacteria, and this is finally being accepted. If you look up some articles, you'll finally see it's in the New York Times and things like that. There was a lot of controversy around Lyme and what it can do. But there's no controversy about the bacteria. So Lyme and the co-infections can
Mm-hmm.
infect almost every organ in your body. I had a gallbladder, had past tense, because my gallbladder was necrotic at 20 years old. Um,
Wow.
they were like, this can't be. But I was at the best Lyme providers at the time that were studying the linkage between having persistent Lyme disease and losing your gallbladder. And so, but the hospital, when it was a crazy story, the hospital I went to, they didn't want to talk to my doctor. They refused for days to call my own provider to understand a little bit more about my case. And
That's
then
wild.
and then the main doctor came in that day and looked at me and said, "Well, what is Lyme's disease?" I was like, if you haven't taken the time to Google search this at this point, I really don't
What,
think it should be my
what is
priority.
Lyme's disease?
Lyme's disease. Yep. And I just remember looking at my mom saying, "Sign me out of here." I was like, "Get me out of here. I don't feel safe." So that's too part of the emotions of, the provider trauma, and um, not being able to find a provider that will believe you. A
Mm,
lot of it's written off as, like I said, depression. Then in high school, it was, oh, I had my cycle. So it was a lot of different reasons for why they couldn't figure out what was going on with me. But eventually, we got down to the root cause, and I've also been diagnosed with EDS, and I've also been diagnosed with POTS syndrome. So uh, yeah, got those diagnoses, so those won't go away. Those are chronic. Um, but the Lyme, in theory, the Lyme symptoms should get better throughout treatment, which they have. So, yay.
yeah. I feel like if women's cycle caused them to lose feeling in their arms every now and then, that would make it that at least more funny for us all. If,
Right?
right?
I
Maybe a
mean,
bit
but
of a
we
tell.
cannot take another we cannot take another thing to happen to us on our cycles. Oh my goodness. That would be
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
I would have to call the big guy on that one.
Right. Entertaining though. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. That just sounds. So what is I kind of know what POTS is. You're gonna have to fill me in a little bit, and I don't think I've ever heard EDS, so you're gonna have to give me
Yes. Okay, so
all
I'm not the
info.
expert on these because, to be honest, it's they're both so new that all the medical stuff coming out about it just changes somewhat constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe um Michelle is Michelle
Me?
can jump in on it.
Oh,
Oh,
Nicole.
Nichole.
If Nichole, sorry, I can't read
That's okay.
I
It's
was like,
okay.
No, you're fine.
so maybe Nichole can jump in on it, but POTS syndrome has to do with your heart, and your heart rate. So essentially, for me, it's like when I stand up, my heart rate drops really dramatically, really
Oh.
quickly. So it just causes issues like dysautonomia, where you're like disoriented, heat flashes for me. EDS is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This is incredibly new. I can barely find other people that have it.
Mm.
Um, it's affects women more than men, I believe, and it's a tissue disorder. So my tissues are essentially like gum. Instead of holding the bones in place, they kind of stretch a little, which is ironic because I actually do yoga, and I always thought it was just really flexible, like things were popping out of place, and I was like, damn, I'm really good at this. I'm really, really good at this. No, it was the connective tissues just kind of overstretching. And it can cause issues with like spinal issues, moving the nerves around and things like that. Did I do a good job, Nichole?
You did a great job, honestly. And you're spot on. Both of them are fairly well, they used to be pretty rare. POTS is becoming more common post-COVID. It was one of the things that came out during the COVID pandemic for long-term COVID. So people with
Mm.
long-term COVID started experiencing POTS. So I think we'll see more and more research come out for that one, especially here in the pretty near future. For EDS, again, great job on that one too.
Thank you.
It's for that one that it's really I don't know as much about it. I do know it's hard to diagnose. It's kind of like a diagnosis of um, exclusion because unless you have a rare form of EDS, there's no test for it.
Hmm.
So it's really symptom based. And usually people start with, my joints hurt. And so where providers go is, oh, it's arthritis or you hurt yourself or something like that. Um, and then later on, you start to notice like the hyper, like mobility and the ability to be like quote unquote double jointed. But yeah, it leads to a lot of pain all over the body, usually within the joints, because as you were saying, the connective tissues, the tendons, the ligaments, they don't like to hold the bones together very well.
Mm. Do you have that pain, Emily?
Oh, all over. I'm in pain probably like 90% of the time. Um,
Oh.
uh, like I said, all of the symptoms have gotten better as I've gotten Lyme treatment. So they think that
That's good.
it's kind of compounding. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Lyme bacteria was causing, even more inflammation. My body couldn't process more inflammation because I was already inflamed. And um, yeah, like I said, it caused for me to a mast cell reaction. So they said they were giving me meds for mast cell activation syndrome, which is just essentially your body is reacting to everything, like literally the air, the foods I was eating, the stuff I put on my body. So they prescribed me an EpiPen, but not to anything specific, just because my throat was closing up randomly and the Benadryl slowly stopped being as effective. The allergic reactions got worse. So it's a complex. I've like everybody else with chronic diseases, it tends to get complex, I think.
Mm-hmm. You had an EpiPen just in case your throat started to close.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it wasn't too at that point though, I wasn't eating many foods. I was like literally eating maybe half a cup of rice. At one point I was looking at doing baby powder
Mm-hmm.
um because that is safe for people that have like the really bad mast cell activation syndrome. And so I got an EpiPen. I have one. It's in my bag. Do I forget it sometimes? And in those times I have an allergic reaction. Yeah, I do. But I always keep like a little pill thing. I'm sure you do this too. Like you've adapted your life a little bit to
Yeah.
allow you to do things, but also, keep you safe.
Mm-hmm. So you're in pain at all times. Is that pain all over? Or is there a specific spot?
It depends. It I had really bad spinal pain that
Mm.
shot up my neck and then down through my hands and then down through my legs. So that's an all over pain. If I'm punching over my computer like this, which I shouldn't be doing, if that can get a little worse. I have joint pain all the time, and almost every, like, you think of joint pain, you think of like your knees and your elbows, but every joint in my body, like my fingers, I squeeze them together like this to try to massage them.
Oh man.
But like I said, the inflammation's going down, so I'm experiencing less pain than I did before. Before I had to delay school for a year because I was like bedridden. I was in so much pain. I was like not getting out of bed. It was too much.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like being malnourished at the same time because you couldn't eat a lot of
Oh,
food.
1000%. 1000%. My weight dropped significantly, which is also a mental battle too, because as a woman, a lot of the reactions I was getting was, "Oh, at least you're losing weight. At least you're losing weight." And but what they weren't realizing was, I was already at a healthy weight. I didn't need to lose any weight, and so actually losing that weight was bad for me.
Yeah.
So I was incredibly. I had dropped. I dropped 20 pounds, and so I was very frail, very, I couldn't really get up the stairs because you have to really push. You got to really use your legs and have that
Wow.
strength. And yeah, I was bedridden for a year. Yeah, it
Man,
was pretty bad.
that sounds awful.
Awful.
And you,
Emily,
Incredibly awful.
yeah.
as you have started to have some of your symptoms improve through treatment, do you reflect back on this time period and like feel anger or resentment or like a loss of, looking back retrospectively of all the things that you missed out on
Y- you
from?
know, um, yeah, I mean, I it ebbs and flows. I think that's like with all emotions that ebb and flow. Um, I did go through a period, and people look at me and they say, "Well, how can you say that you're grateful to be in your position?" And things like that. And what I say to them is that if you talk to my parents, if you talk to my mom specifically, she took the brunt of me being angry at the world. So I was for a good period of time there when I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't eat, and I really saw no future for me. I thought I wasn't going to make it, and so I got really angry at that. I got angry at the fact that I thought, you know, these things were getting taken away from me. I had an internship in DC that I busted my butt for. I was going to be working with policy guys in the space for the fashion industry. I had to cancel that. And the other mental thing for me is I'm a perfectionist. I like to do everything and I like to do it right. And so to tell people I can't do this was such a problem for me. And it really negatively impacted my mental health. I just couldn't deal with it. But I'm still processing every day because it's still happening to me, obviously. But I do have the confidence in saying, look, I am in a lucky position because I have parents who love me, who will do anything to help me. I have siblings who will support me through everything, no matter what. I have a school program that's willing to work with me. I have doctors that are willing to keep going and never give up. And I have a treatment that many people can't get access to. So in my book, at this point in my journey, I'm grateful for what I have, and that helps the anger subside a little bit because, you stop looking at everything you lost and you realize you didn't lose anything at all. I never lost my family. I never lost, you know, they never lost hope. So I never lost it, you know.
Mm.
That's huge.
Yeah, that is a really cool thing to hear.
Oh, well, thank you. It took me a while to get here. And that's what I tell people all the time. It's not going to happen for you overnight. And you've got to feel the anger because it is angry. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
something you should be angry about. You should be angry at the fact that the healthcare system isn't working for you. You should be
Mm-hmm.
angry that they're creating barriers. That's the anger is good. It pushes you to keep going. It pushes you to say, what's happening here isn't right and we need to do better. You know,
Yeah.
it's the sadness that I think gets people. It's that can bring you down into like a mental spiral.
Oh, yeah. Well, as I understand it, the chain is if you have anger and you don't feel it, you suppress it. That is where you get deep sadness and depression. And I think there's a lot of good messaging around emotional regulation these days. I think it's easily pushed too far into emotional suppression. To your
Mhm.
point of, oh, I don't feel angry. I just put it aside. That's different than feeling it and it not controlling your actions. Because if you don't feel it,
Yeah.
that's terrible. And you make an excellent point that, yeah, if something is making you angry, that's telling you something is wrong.
Hmm.
And that can be a misinterpret for some people. It's a misinterpretation, but yeah, if the healthcare system has a doctor walking in saying, "What is this disease that you have?" That should make you angry. Like, hey, can we get someone
Mhm.
else next? What are my other options besides
Please.
this guy?
I'm like, Mom, I can Google it. I'm smarter than this guy. And, that pisses them
Yeah.
off. And you know what? I have the utmost respect for doctors, PAs, people in the medical field, nurses. I think nurses need way more credit than they're ever given. I think nurses have probably helped me way more than any doctor has ever done. But I have respect for them. I just think that they need pushed because the system that they're in has trained them a certain way and they're not questioning it. But we
Mm,
need to be questioning things. We need to question why things are the way they are. And we should constantly be evolving and improving. If you can say to me that you think you're the best provider that you can be and you've hit your peak, then that scares me.
mm,
To me, I think there's never a peak. You keep going.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the phrase survivorship bias?
No, what is that?
So, like, the way it was explained to me is at the end of World War II, they looked at all the planes that had come back and where they'd been shot, and they said, okay, we'll put armor in those places. Well, the problem is they were putting armor in all the places a plane could get shot and still come home. They should have put armor in because all the other planes that didn't come back were shot in other parts of the plane. So they should have done the reverse.
Hmm.
And in my experience with doctors, a lot of them have only too many patients. There's not enough doctors.
Yes, 1,000.
And they have like, they have like three or four things they suggest for, say they treat three different areas or three main conditions. They have like a one pager on how to address that. And when that when that say that only works for, even if it just works for half of their patients, well, those patients come back and tell them it worked and they're like really happy. Well, the patients where it doesn't work, they eventually stop seeing that doctor. And so the doctor just talks to all the success stories and
Yeah.
is like, well, if it didn't work for you, you're obviously not doing all the steps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing too that I think doctors just don't there's a gap in there's a miscommunication happening because like you said when you were talking about your experiences of needing somebody in that appointment, you know, a lot of these doctors talk about compliance and how compliance is a big issue, and it's not their fault because patients aren't listening to their instructions.
Mm,
Well, if your instructions are given in alien language that nobody can understand, right?
Yeah.
A dialect that nobody can understand,
yeah.
then that's whose fault is it, right? Who's well, maybe it's both people. Maybe both people need to come to the table to say, "Wait, we're not communicating right. You need to
Mm,
communicate in this way and I need to communicate in this way."
mm-hmm.
Just like, you know, when you're talking to a doctor, I think there's plenty of guidelines out there, and you know, my startup, we're working on some better guidelines too of people that don't have anybody to come in with them. How do you talk to a doctor? How do you bring up pieces of information you found, or you know, critical reviewed articles that you found in a an appropriate way that won't really piss them off? Right? How to do
Yeah.
that, how to
It's a
communicate with
skill
your
set.
doctor in a way that's not gonna
Mhm.
piss them off. Because we
Yeah.
don't want to do that, you know? We don't want to create enemies.
Yeah. Yeah. Nicole, I imagine you have some experience interfacing with doctors without offending them.
Yes, both as a nurse and as a patient. And you're trying to create a therapeutic relationship because one of the things that I learned later on in my career is that there's this inherent power dynamic in a doctor-patient relationship. The doctor walks into that room as the authority figure. And that's how medicine used to be practiced. You know, the doctor was the expert. They came into the room and they told you what to do. You took that information, you left with it. That's not really how medicine should be practiced anymore. I mean, it is really in the best interest of the doctor and the patient to develop a therapeutic relationship, which means mutual respect and mutual trust. And but navigating that, especially when you're first meeting each other, is tricky. I love hearing this, giving people tools to walk into a room when they don't have anybody else who has this experience to help them with that. So very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Yeah, we're working on it, and hopefully, you know, maybe we can partner one day, um, together, because it's this these problems that we talk about need to be tackled from so many different directions. Um, you know, and that's where, you know, we need a human connection, we need a technological part, we need, you know, a, expert in the room, you know, that is willing to work with us. It's all so important, I really believe.
Yeah. Can you give us an example? What I heard you say is you help teach women how to interface or talk like medicalese with a doctor. Can you
So
give us how that normally looks?
So yeah, and the biggest thing we do is we help women struggle with we help women solve the logistical challenges of their illness, and the way that we
Mm-hmm.
do that is three things. We help them with resources, guys. By the way, I'm 23. This is a very new startup, so it's not you know, I'm working with myself and a technological advisor, but that's pretty much it. But we help with resources, so finding credible resources for these people so they don't have to go online and do the researching themselves. We help create toolkits, like things like, here is a sheet. So this is, for instance, you know, we have a sheet and it says, hi, you know, hi, my name is blank. Gives you put your own, you know, little blurb of what your health history would be. You put your major questions that you have, you know, and it tells you how to kind of walk through that process. It also gives you sections where you should jot down notes specifically about, you know, X, Y, and Z, and if you have any follow-up questions. And then the final area that we help is community. So what we're doing is we have a Facebook group that's private for these women. And then we're also throwing events, virtual events that these women can join so they can get, like I said, real human connection, because that's what I
Mm-hmm.
think we really lack in a lot of these solutions. You see all these apps that come out, and they're all great, but they lack the human connection that I think both women and men need.
Yeah, and you feel like creating these online communities is a way to bridge that gap.
1000%. I've seen it. So I've branded myself as chronically sick with style online, and I post videos about my journey, and I've got over 3,000 followers now. What's really important is the activity that's happening. So it's a real community. These women are really engaging. They really want to help each other. We
Mm.
are truly friends, which is a crazy thing to say, with parasocial relationships going on and all of that
Mm-hmm.
with social media. But and that's why I said, a lot of these women were talking about the fact that they're still kind of alone. They don't really meet up with anybody. They're trying to create these smaller group chats to develop this, and so that's why I'm holding my first event for these women in December. That's going to be trauma informed yoga, and they can join and keep their camera on or keep it off, and they're going to have a professional teach them how to do yoga in bed and things like that, because it's for individuals with medical trauma or other trauma.
Right on. That is
Yeah,
very cool.
thanks.
Yeah.
Working my butt off. I'm trying.
Yeah, and as someone who works at a startup, none of us have it figured out.
That makes me feel so much better, because
Oh,
that's
yeah. There was a meme I saw the other day of a pilot in a fighter plane reading a manual that says how to fly a jet. And it literally said, this is how you do a startup. And I
yeah.
thought, that is
Oh, oh,
exactly how I feel every day. Except I don't know where he got the manual. That I feel like he has an advantage.
really, truly. And I think you can relate to this too, is being founder of a startup and being chronically ill. People look at you a little bit odd. Or at
Hmm.
least they do for me, in terms of, can you do this? I think
Mhm.
that a little bit of it too is also being a woman. I think I just get questioned a little bit more. I actually,
Yeah.
one advisor session, the person verbatim used, "Well, you're just a young woman, just a young woman," and you know, you should probably focus on some other problem or something else," she said. And I think, anyway, going back to the being chronically ill, I think that people question, like, oh, if you're chronically ill, if you're dealing with these different diseases and things like that, can you actually run a startup? Can you help other people? And I say, hell yeah, you can.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know,
That's really
what's
cool.
your opinion on that?
Oh, my opinion on that, I am confident that women can run startups.
Oh no, I mean on chronic illness too. Well, I'm
Oh,
glad that
I don't I don't run into
thank you.
that as much, but I also don't I feel really self-conscious about my chronic issues, not because they're on more like personal or sensitive than POTS or EDS. It's more for me that I feel self-conscious. I've had people, even like friends of mine, just not believe that I have those symptoms. And so if someone asks me about my health, I will my to be very transparent, I will then like make a joke and then shift the conversation to something else. And people, next thing you know, we're not talking about my health anymore.
Well, first of all, that's a good founder. That's a really good way to to have a startup. I'm sure when you get questions, you're good at switching the conversation if you don't exactly know the answer. I need to practice that with you. But I'm sorry that you've experienced that. It's something nobody should ever experience.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
and being questioned on whether or not something's real, it can really affect your brain in terms of, like, well, is this reality? I always questioned after people would ask me. Now I'm like, I know very solidly that I experience these things.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't doubt myself, but I completely relate to, that feeling of not really wanting to talk about it, especially with friends. When a friend does it to you, you're kind of like, wait, you're supposed to be on my side here, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it kind of speaks to what Nichole was talking about with doctors having there being a power dynamic. And I think there's an inherent emotion or emotional weight to having a health issue, a chronic health issue especially. And that's one of the crazy parts of a doctor's appointment is you go in and you have maybe 5 minutes, and the person you're talking to is kind of the gatekeeper to possible solutions. And you have 5 minutes to say what say your experience, say what other doctors have told you, and think of the best questions to ask the doctor as they tell you their side of it. It's like, hey, you have to drive to a place you've never been, and if you don't get there in time, your life might change. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially when you add into the equation of these doctors are overworked, they,
Mm,
they have too many patients, so they're coming in not 100%. And it's really, sometimes I do say, we've gotta, because it can be so easy as a patient to just get pissed off at the doctors and providers.
mhm.
And when you realize it's the system
Yeah,
and the system's broken, it's not these people that are, giving their time to try and help you. It's the system. And
yeah,
so
Yeah.
how do we, instead of trying to fix this system, because it probably, is going to be really difficult with a lot of gatekeepers preventing, actual fixes from happening. How do we create community around the system that allows
mm,
to have a better quality of life? That's kind of my mindset on that.
yeah. I totally agree with that. And real community, to your point, because finding someone on TikTok who has, who's discovered an essential oil that will cure your problems is not
Yeah, no.
actual community.
1000%. 1000%. And community happens when you really can say, oh wait, I have somebody that I can go to with this,
Mhm,
like, if you have a bad doctor's appointment, I can say confidently now, oh wait, I have a few friends that I can go to about this, and I can openly talk about what's going on without
mhm,
judgment, with complete understanding. And that's what I think is beautiful, that's grown out of this community, of chronically ill people, is they're really, most of them, I've not experienced a negative experience with somebody who's chronically ill. Most of them are really understanding. Most of them
mhm.
have developed a level of compassion that some human beings might not ever experience in their lifetime. So, that's the beautiful part about going through struggles, is that there are some little peaks of light. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. What would you say has been the toughest part of this journey for you?
oh, the toughest part of the journey probably would be the first part is finding the person that's willing to commit to your case. I
Mm,
think when you go on for so long with so many problems, and you're just at one point, I was just looking for anyone to help. Can
mhm,
anybody help? Even if it's not curing, if it's not taking away, can you help with the pain? Can you help me with food? Because I love food and I want to eat again. Please help me. Um, that, I think, it was the hardest part, was finding somebody to commit. And I think that is one of the hardest parts for most people on this journey, because you're just struggling. until you find somebody, and then then you have to climb that mountain, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
climbing the mountain's hard, but you never got to the mountain if you never found the person who's willing to be like, here's the mountain,
Yeah.
climb it, you know.
Yeah, because you're
For me,
not sure which mountain you're supposed to climb.
and you're running up hills, and you're trying, like you said, and I will be honest with this, I was at a point where I was trying anything. So that TikTok person that recommended the essential oil that would take away my health issues, I try it
Yeah.
because I had
Yeah.
nothing to lose at this point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had already felt like I lost so much that I was like, I'll try anything, literally anything. My skin got so bad, I started putting beef tallow on my face, which is like a natural moisturizer. It works for some people.
Yeah.
For me, having super sensitive skin probably wasn't the best route to go.
What
And
happened?
it just made like my skin worse. It was such a
Mm.
Uh,
thick like layer of fat essentially put on your
uh-huh.
face, and so it just made all my, you know, I had like a rash. And everybody thought it was acne. You know, I went to the dermatologist. They were like, it's acne. I was like, it's not acne. It doesn't respond to any retinoids. It doesn't respond to, they put me on, oh God, I'm not going to remember. They put me on a medication that was supposed to help, not Accutane, but something they tried before Accutane.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was working. As soon as I got the antibiotics, my skin has cleared. I no longer need to use beef tallow, so that's good.
No more tallow. You just put strips of bacon
Just
on
put
there.
strips of bacon,
Yeah.
grease from the fryer. Why don't you?
Yeah.
I
Just a
was,
little bit of grease.
oh my
Yeah.
God, though, seriously, though, if you told me anything, I was so desperate. I'd changed. I was a health freak. I was, doing certain stretches because that's what I was told to do for the pain. And, I would have done anything. And,
Mm.
that's kind of where the frustration lied too, because I was so willing to try something. I just had no one to show me that mountain,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to climb. I'm ready to get better. I'm ready to work at it with you, and I'll do whatever you tell me, but not whatever, because sometimes I'm like push back on my doctors, which I think's a healthy relationship,
Yeah.
to say, well, I don't really want to try another medication for sleep. I think that stress probably was affecting me that day.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why I didn't sleep. Let's not jump to, a medication we don't need.
Yeah. I
That was,
can't imagine what would cause you stress.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, people are like, why are you stressed? And it's so difficult to explain to them that when your body is constantly in fight or flight,
Mm-hmm.
your nervous system is always active.
Yeah.
You cannot calm down. And you need, like, I got to the point where I was like, I'd get so worked up, and I'd get hives, my face would get red, and I'd, trouble breathing. I'm starting to have panic attack now. And so I'd have to put ice on my face and ice on my arms to try and shock myself out of whatever was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's hard to explain to somebody that stress is always kind of there.
Yeah. You can't take a vacation from your body.
Mm.
1000%.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes I wish I could just step out for a second, pop
Yeah.
out for 1 second,
Yeah. Can you transfer my consciousness into a different body?
Exactly.
Is that enough?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I quite like myself then. And so I'm like, I don't want to mess anything up. So I'll just stay in this body. It's okay. I'll take it.
Yeah. I don't know. If they said the success rate was like above 70%, I'd probably do it. Just
Oh my goodness. I don't know. That's not a
Uh,
high enough percentage for me.
yeah. Maybe I'm just really into sci-fi. And I'm like excited at the idea of like that could just keep doing
Love
that.
sci-fi. Grew up on Star Trek and Star Wars and all that good stuff.
Nice.
Hmm.
Nice. But yeah, it is hard to communicate the stress of just constantly having an issue, and that knowing that you're, as you look for, the way it happens for me is as I look forward into other seasons of life, I'll think, well, that sounds great. There's this extra added unknown. I'm not sure how my health is going to impact that situation.
1000%. It's I'm 23 years old, and to try and explain to my friends why I couldn't go out on a Friday night
Mm,
um was a really hard, like, it was a really difficult thing for me. First of all, I don't like going out and drinking, period. It's not my thing. But in college, it's really hard to tell people that. They really,
yeah.
like, a lot of college kids, they're not operating that way. I had a
Mhm.
startup, I was focusing on different things, but it, like you said, it's a big challenge to, people want to make plans with me, and I I really can't. Like, there was at one point, now I can, because I can confidently say I'm in a better place. But before, when I was
Mhm.
bedridden, there was absolutely no planning going on. There was not even for my life. I wasn't planning anything. I graduated
Mm,
from college, and I had truly gotten to a point where I'd given up. I thought,
mm,
I'm going to die, because I'd gotten undiagnosed by all these other things. They were like, okay, it's not cancer. Okay, it's not lupus. Okay, it's not this. It's not
mm,
this. And the only thing left for me was either, okay, I have Lyme or MS, because of the neurological stuff going
yeah.
on. And yeah, for a while there, I thought I had MS. And once you think that, it was very hard for me to get past that, get and to be like, no, I have a future, and I can, even to date someone was difficult for me, because I didn't want to do that to the person. I'm dating someone now that he stayed through the whole thing, but I told him, like, I'm not going to date you. Well, why? Because I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't
Mm,
want any of it to be put on you.
mm,
I don't want you to have to carry that. Then, I learned my lesson of people can decide what they want to carry themselves. I don't get to decide that for them. So,
mhm.
but it makes it really difficult, yeah, to live a normal life. What
The
is
fact that you had to process that decision at 23 or younger, though,
Yeah.
is wild.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It really was like to look forward and to not see anything, to just see darkness. That's really, like,
Mm,
how a lot of what I visualize is, like, in my head, and I see, like, photos and stuff like that of what I'm thinking, and to see ahead, it was pure darkness. There
mm,
was nothing there. Um, so I struggled really bad. I really lost hope, lost drive, and that was not who I am naturally.
mhm,
So yeah, I got to the point where I was like, what's life? What's the point of it? Why am I living it?
mm,
I'll say the good thing about that, because I'm always the good thing, it's the toxic positivity that we have nowadays. But the
toxic
good,
positivity.
yeah, so it is
So
a little
true.
toxic. It's,
That's why I'm laughing. Yeah, that feels that I relate. But
yeah,
I'm cutting you
it's
off.
like we
Keep
don't
going.
need to make everything positive. But the good
Yeah.
thing that came out of that is, I think I'm more self-actualized as a person,
Mm,
and I have a deeper level of thought of what I do now and what I don't do, who I choose to
mm,
surround myself with and who I don't. So I learned a lot feeling that, but feeling it's a really hard thing. And not to
mm,
mention, the people around me had to watch me go through it. So my parents, I got bless them. I don't know how they did it, because if I had a kid, I don't know how I'd watch them not want to live,
mm.
you know? So
Yeah. Well, I think to your point about toxic positivity, two things can be true at the same time. It sounds like you've become a much higher agency person because of this. And I relate to that. I'm definitely a higher agency person than I would have been. The cost at the same time for that is incredible.
Hmm.
Like it sounds, your story sounds awful. And I'm just sorry that you've had to go through it and you're still going through it.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. And, the biggest thing for me is that I just don't want the next person to feel it. So if I can
Mm,
just help one person not feel it as bad, I can't take away what they're going to have to go through.
mm-hmm,
Fortunately, that's if I had a magic wand, I would take it away, but
mm-hmm.
I can't. And so my mindset is I just want to help one person not go through what I had to go through,
Yeah.
you know. That's
Well, it is easy to imagine that the people you're helping appreciate that a great deal.
well, yeah, we're growing, and I would say I they've probably helped me more.
Yeah?
They've probably helped me more, because to to connect with somebody like that, to understand somebody like that, to have them understand you like that, it's incredibly healing, I think.
Yeah. I hear that.
Yeah.
Nichole, I've asked a ton of questions. Is there anything that you've got on your mind?
I guess if you could tell healthcare providers one thing that you would like them to take away from this, what would that be?
The biggest thing would be to listen. I think a lot of healthcare providers go in with that checklist, like you said. They have that one pager and they're already prepped on what they're kind of going to say to you. But before they speak, they should always listen. And I think that's a rule that everybody should do. But, and more importantly, healthcare providers listen to your patient, and then you can decide what the next steps are. But don't go in with this preconceived notion of what you think this patient is, especially when somebody has a chronic health condition. They come in thinking, oh, this person just is a hypochondriac.
Mm-hmm.
They don't listen.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I think that's great feedback.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree.
Emilie, are there any questions or things that you wanted to discuss before we wrap up?
I think from your perspective, how how okay are the doctors with the navigators in the room? That'd be my
Oh, uh, what are their thoughts on the advocates?
yeah. What are their thoughts on the advocates? How have they reacted?
Yeah, there's a spectrum. I have a specialist here who, gosh, he is the best. He has an assistant in the room taking notes. I have an advocate on the phone taking notes. He thinks advocates are incredible. He's the man.
Mm.
On this side of the spectrum, yeah, he's the best. On this side, you've got doctors who are clearly unhappy that someone is on the phone. I've been point blank asked multiple times, sometimes twice in the same, like, why do you have this? I had one doctor tell me to stop it.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's actually a PhD, but he kind of runs an office with MDs and PAs. He uh he has some really good insights and is a total ass at the same time.
That's
So,
always the worst, isn't it?
right?
Like
Yeah.
they've got the
Yeah.
knowledge. They've got the
Yeah.
knowledge, and then you're like, man, but you're just an asshole.
Oh, total
Could you
asshole.
please smile? And
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that are like, can you smile? But sometimes it's so bad. I'm
Yeah.
like, can you just put a smile on your face, please?
Yeah.
You're intimidating me.
Yeah. Can you dial it back just a little bit? Yeah, so there's a spectrum there, and I think that over time it will move to a place where providers are more comfortable with this. My ear, nose, and throat doctor here in San Diego, actually, they are using a system where I can text the PA in their office.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. It's still San Diego, so they sometimes take 2 days to respond. But I didn't have to get an appointment, go see the doctor, and have a conversation, and then be told, hey, come back in 4 to 6 weeks. So I think we're moving in the right direction. But yeah, they say half to 2/3 of the time there's pushback.
Hmm.
And at the same time, the at the end of the day, I just have to not give a shit.
Mhm.
Like, person is there to help.
Love it.
I'm not here to make the doctor happy. Like, if they're a professional, if I have any respect for them at all, then they can handle something they don't like.
1000%. 1000%. And the reason they don't like it, I think, is because it intimidates them and it
Mhm.
makes them feel like they're questioned. But that's if they could listen, they would know that that's not at all the reason why the person is on the phone.
Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
at all the
Yeah.
reason. It's because the human being needs support and help to remember and to go through the appointment a little bit easier. It's not
yeah,
to question the doctor or to, think that we're better, things like that. I think that's where the miscommunication lies.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And in no other realm do people just not talk to others solving the same problem.
Mhm.
That's not a thing in any
For sure.
other area. And to your point about a doctor refusing to talk to other doctors, that it's like something that's a really simple issue. I imagine they have some sort of reason for it. They're probably overworked like crazy. But just getting over that hurdle is a huge deal,
Mhm.
which you literally said in your story was, I mean, that's what I heard. That
Mhm.
was the
Yeah.
thing when people started actually putting pieces together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, too, the thing is, and it kind of goes back to what you say about people not believing you. It's these doctors. It feels a whole lot different when you start having doctors not believe you, right?
Mm,
Well, the test came back normal. Your test came back normal, so I don't know what to do with you. I had a doctor literally say that to me. I don't know what to do with you.
mm,
How do
Yeah.
you, respond to that? How do you keep going with that? I think the best thing a doctor can do is say, I don't know what to do with you, but I'm going to refer you to these other people. To not have a
mhm.
referral, to just be like, I can't help you, no referral to any place or any resource is just disappointing. And I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a fault on them.
Yeah.
Disappointing is a nice way of saying it.
For
Yeah,
sure.
it's it's like a gut check in your chest
Mm-hmm.
of, oh, I've no other next steps for you. Here's a
It's
lot.
almost like abandonment. Just
And
like,
Mm,
okay.
total abandonment issues. Total abandonment issues. My one provider too, they just shut down. Like, I had gotten my gallbladder out in an emergency surgery. I had an appointment followed up with them in like a week, and all of a sudden the whole practice shut down. No referrals. No reason why.
what?
It was crazy. It was crazy. Come to find out, there's stuff going on. This person was really well known in the world, not industry, but yeah, that happened to me. So now I definitely have a little bit of abandonment issues with
Mm,
providers. Like, please don't just
Yeah.
leave. Please don't just
yeah,
drop my case.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
That's,
yeah, no referrals. I was like, what?
yeah.
You,
Just,
where do I go? I had like, thank goodness I didn't have the line in yet because they wanted to put a line in me, and then they closed down. So it's like, oh, the worst patients, the patients that had the worst brunt of that were the patients that had Lyme, because it's a really tricky process to have
hmm
somebody oversee the line,
hmm
and to get somebody else to oversee it
Yeah.
is really difficult.
really?
Yeah. especially in the Lyme world, because treating Lyme with a PICC line is not the common approach.
Mm,
So it's difficult.
yeah. Having an uncommon situation in an uncommon disease sounds pretty hard.
Pretty hard.
Yep.
But I learn so much every day about myself. I get pushed into corners that I never thought I'd pushed into, that I'm not comfortable with, but I'm pushed there. So then I get comfortable. And I know my purpose in life, and I know it's to help other people. And so to me, um, if that's what I got out of chronic illness and what I've been through, then that's good enough.
Mm, I hear that. Well, unfortunately, I think we have to wrap this up.
Perfect, guys. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This has been incredible.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you for sharing your story.